All right, buckle up, because today we're going deep, really deep. We're talking about a place most people haven't even heard of, but trust me, it's a wild ride. La Rinconada, Peru.
High in the Andes Mountains.
Yeah, and I mean high, like the highest permanent settlement on the entire planet, over 17,000 feet up.
You got it. It's this insane gold mining town built right onto the side of a mountain.
Our source this time is this YouTuber, total adventurer type, who decided to spend 24 hours in La Rinconada and film the whole thing. And let me tell you, the footage is nuts.
Intense, right.
Absolutely. And you can tell right from the start he's nervous. He even mentions getting all these warning messages before even arriving, like, be careful up there, stuff like that.
Can't say I blame him. The journey alone is brutal. Just to handle that altitude, most people would be on their knees.
50% less oxygen.
50%. Think about that for a second. Your body freaks out. Your brain's starved, heart's pounding.
Yeah, he's immediately hit with headaches, gotta pee every 5 seconds, the whole 9 yards.
Textbook altitude sickness. Your body's in survival mode up there.
It makes you wonder, why would anyone choose to live like that? But that's the thing about La Rinconada. It's not just about the altitude. It's about the gold.
Right, the gold rush mentality is alive and well in that town.
And the thing is, this video was filmed after the pandemic had just hit, right when Peru's economy was on its knees.
Exactly. People were desperate for work, for any opportunity, really.
So suddenly, La Rinconada, dangerous as it is, starts to look like, well, maybe a chance.
A gamble, for sure.
A gamble with incredibly high stakes, and the visual contrast is crazy. You see these gorgeous glaciers, these epic mountains, and then boom, it's like a sea of scrap metal and trash just sprawling across this mountainside.
50,000 people crammed together with basically zero infrastructure, no sanitation to speak of. The environmental toll is mind-boggling.
Just pouring pollution into these pristine landscapes.
A classic tragedy of the commons. Everyone's so focused on striking it rich, they don't see the bigger picture. Or they just don't care.
And speaking of risks, right off the bat, people are warning this YouTuber about danger. The bus driver who takes them up is basically like, good luck surviving.
It's a lawless place. No real police, no emergency services to speak of. You're on your own.
Which makes it even crazier that they went in totally blind. No contacts, no plan, just let's go to the highest city on earth and see what happens.
Talk about winging it. I mean, that's asking for trouble.
It's a good thing they stumbled upon Fidel. He's this local miner who speaks English, and he becomes their guide, their translator, their way into this whole other world.
Fidel's their saving grace. Without him, they're lost, literally and figuratively. He's their window into understanding what life is really like in La Rinconada.
And Fidel, he's the one who explains how this whole gold operation works. And guys, it's wild.
Yeah, the system they've got there is called Cachorreo. And honestly, it's kind of messed up.
Cachorreo. Okay, so what's that, like, dog eat dog, every man for himself kind of thing?
Basically, you work for 30 days straight, brutal labor, and you get nothing.
Wait, hold on. No wages. At all.
Yep. Day 31, that's when you get to mine for yourself. Whatever you find, you keep.
So it's all riding on that one day. Talk about pressure.
It's a huge gamble. And most of the time, people walk away with nothing. But that glimmer of hope, that's what keeps them going.
Man, that's a whole other level of desperation. And on top of that, you've got the danger, this constant threat of violence. They're warned about it constantly.
Remember, there's no real law in La Rinconada. No police to call if things go south.
Yeah, and it's not just theft, right? Like, at one point, they're walking down this narrow street, and you can just feel the tension. Even Fidel seems scared.
The guy's lived there his whole life, and even he's on edge. It says a lot about the kind of place La Rinconada is.
And then you meet someone like Adela, this woman panning for gold scraps. Her story, man, it gets to you.
4 kids to feed, working in those conditions for years. And the day they film her, she hasn't found a single speck of gold.
It's heartbreaking, and it makes you think, for every Fidel, there are probably dozens, hundreds of Adelas just struggling to survive.
And you start to wonder, is it even possible to break that cycle? Or is La Rinconada just this trap, this place where hope goes to die?
It's heavy stuff, and I'm glad that the YouTuber Ammar, he doesn't shy away from that. He doesn't treat the people he meets like they're just subjects in some poverty documentary.
No, he's respectful, he listens. You can tell he's genuinely impacted by what he sees. And that makes all the difference.
It does, because it would be easy to watch this and just feel overwhelmed by the despair, the poverty, the sheer danger of it all. But there's also this humanity there, this resilience that shines through.
It's like, even in the worst possible conditions, people find a way to connect, to find moments of joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even with all that, there's this undercurrent of something darker going on in Rinconada, something they don't explicitly talk about in the video, but it's there.
You can feel it, right? Like just below the surface. And that's the thing about places like this, places built on desperation and the promise of wealth. They're always going to be shadows.
Shadows where exploitation thrives, and that's what we're going to talk about next, right? The human cost of gold and how that plays out in a place like Rinconada. And it's not just the human cost, right? This whole operation, this whole town, it's an environmental nightmare waiting to happen. They keep talking about mercury in the video, how it's used to extract the gold.
Yeah, mercury contamination is a huge issue in a lot of these small-scale mining operations.
And it's not just the miners who are affected, right?
No way. That mercury, it gets into the water, the soil, it can travel for miles.
They even show this glacier how much it shrunk in just a few years. It's literally melting away.
And that's the thing about climate change, right? It just exacerbates these problems. The glaciers melt faster, they release more mercury, more toxins. It's a vicious cycle.
It's scary, man. And you can tell it really gets to Ammar, the YouTuber, as he spends more time there. He keeps having these moments where he just stops and reflects. Like he can't believe the contrast between his life and what he's seeing in Rinconada.
That cognitive dissonance can be tough to handle.
One minute he's freezing his butt off, the next he's talking about how he can't wait to get back to his hotel and take a hot shower.
It makes you realize how much we take for granted, right?
Yeah.
Clean water, a safe place to sleep.
Basic necessities that most of these people in Rinconada can only dream of.
It's a stark reminder of the inequality that exists in our world.
So where does that leave us? I mean, what are we supposed to take away from a story like this? It's almost like Rinconada is this weird mix of beauty and despair all rolled into one.
That's a good way to put it. You've got these incredible landscapes, this indomitable human spirit, but then this crushing poverty, this environmental destruction. It's hard to reconcile those things.
It really is. And I think that's why this video is so powerful. It forces you to confront these uncomfortable truths about our world. It makes you ask yourself, what would I do in that situation?
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves, I think. Because the challenges facing the people of Rinconada, those are just microcosms of the larger issues we're all facing. Poverty, inequality, climate change. We're all connected, whether we like it or not.
It's like this giant web, and what happens in one corner affects us all. And that's what makes this deep dive so important, right? It's not just about some remote town in the Andes, it's about all of us.
Exactly. So next time you see a news story about gold prices or climate change or poverty anywhere in the world, remember Rinconada. Remember the people who live there, the choices they make, and ask yourself, what choices am I making and how do they impact the world around me?
It's about asking those tough questions and then hopefully finding some answers and maybe, just maybe, making a difference. That's what we're all about here, right? Digging a little deeper, challenging our perspectives, and hopefully leaving you with something to think about long after this episode is over.